Uh, Hello everyone. Good morning, Mr. and friend. My name is Prasanthila, and today I will be presenting uh, about every problem and every solution guideline to saving a world on a global scale. Now, what we must need to know is what does it have to do with this? What problem are we talking about? Now, the problem that I'm going to talk about is global issues that are happening on overall time, every time we face it, more likely every day. Now, I share like a few parts, around seven parts of global issues. Now, as we all will know, that the world faces numerous global problems or global issues, and most people try to find a solution, not only just to solve it, but also to preventing this type of thing to happen. And this these global problems or global issues could happen in many ways. It could happen in society, also happen in a environment and economies. Now, here are the categories of every uh, global problems and some potential solution which could mitigate or solve or at least preventing them from happening. So let's let's start one. Number one, environmental problems. Now, environmental problems means most likely uh, a problem that mostly happening not just on one person or one place, but most likely every place that people always facing now. For example, climate change. Now, the climate change, people, most people on this planet experiencing climate change. What is climate change? Well, climate change is it actually more likely one of a climate which could have changed, and this mostly happens due to the excess greenhouse gases trap heat, which also causing global warming, extreme weather, and ecosystem collapse. Like for example, the rising of the global temperatures, melting ice caps, or extreme weather events like hurricanes, wildfires, or maybe winters and other things. Now, uh, every problem that I make here, I listed all this here. I also gave them the solutions too. Now, the climate change, it also has the solution. It does have a really big problem because this could affect on most likely every country. Every country. Now, what is the solutions to the climate change? Well, the solution to this is the transition to renewable energy sources, solars, wind, or hydro, and implementing a stricter carbon emission regulation, which we also must promoting sustainable agriculture and afforestation too. And most likely, we also must try not to use a lot of things which could make the earth like really hot. Like for example, we must try not to put the trash on not on the can, not on the trash can. We must put the trash on the trash can, because by that we also try to preventing the global warming too, because it also happened on that one. Okay, now the number two, the B one is the pollution. Now the example of pollution which mostly happen, it usually happen due to the uh, air pollution in the cities like Beijing in China, and at some point there's also a plastic pollution too in the oceans, which basically spread all over the globe. and the industrial waste which happen globally on every countries. And this could also wasting a lot of oxygen too, because we all both know that right now on this modern ages there's not a lot of forest, and we know that the forest or the green forest, they're usually producing oxygen, and by that we also at the same time try to bringing ourselves the end of our own. Now, how can we preventing this or solving this problem? The solution is to reduce plastic usage. Try not to using too much plastic, and try not to put the plastic on other place other than trash can, because that could also pollute those other places like the ocean, for example. And we also must try to improving recycling system. So don't just we cannot just put things away and put on the trash can. If it still can be used, then we can only just do recycling it into another uh, version, which could also probably going to be useful for our daily activities. And we also must enforce stricter emission laws for industries and vehicles, and also encouraging green urban planning like more trees, green rough tubes. So we all knows that the forest right now is slowly getting extinct, like out of all countries. Like right now, mostly we only see city. We're not, we just like barely see the forest, and the only reason that we can see the forest right now is probably due to some personal reason, or maybe because for some art. But at some point, some people also basically destroy these forests even after all of that. So yeah, we really need to produce more and more trees, just to produce a lot more oxygen, just so we can still breathe. And then C is deforestation. Deforestation is basically like destroying every forest. Just like what I said before, it's basically like destroying a tree and other things. And one of the example is the Amazon rainforest destruction that that did happen. And there's also a lot of deforestation that also happened around every country, not just Indonesia, but every country actually did. And uh, wildfire did destroy the forest too. Now, what solution we can use to solve this problem? The solution we can use to solve this problem is by implementing reforestation programs, which are also promoting sustainable wood and palm oil production, enforce stronger land protection law. So we try to at least leave a little space for the trees, not just for the cities alone. Okay, now D, water scarcity. Now, the example of the water scarcity is the Cape Town water crisis, the certification in Africa, and we all both know that in Africa right now, there's mostly it doesn't have a lot of water. It doesn't have a lot of water, so they are in a water crisis. So, what solution we can use to at least preventing this from happening? Because we all both know that water scarcity can happen every single time. Every single time it can happen, and even if we if it didn't happen to us, the water could also get polluted at the same time, because again, because of the plastic pollution in the ocean, because of many people being putting the plastic on the trash can, or maybe using too much plastic. The solution we could use to preventing this from happening is by invest in water conservation and desalination technologies, improve irrigation system in agriculture, strengthen water management policies. Okay, now we go to the number two. Number two is the social issues which usually happen in our daily activity, and mostly at some point it also viral. Now, number eight is educational crisis, and one of the most main example of the educational crisis is the lack of access to quality education in rural India, gender disparity in Afghanistan, and there's also some education which mainly not producing smart people, but at some point it also producing like a lot of people who getting stressed, which make the education is not really working on them. For example, in Indonesia, our country indeed having like a low education too, and at some point the education sometimes producing smart people, and at some point it just producing not producing smart people. So what solution we can use to solving the education crisis? The solution we can use is invest in digital and remote learning tools, ensure free primary and secondary education, support international educational aid programs. Just so we can help others, we can teach them how to use this and this and this and this, just so they can understand it and make their country a lot more advanced than before, or a lot more better. Now the B, human rights violation. Now human rights violation means that we take away others people's right. We take away their own freedom. That is one of them, one of the human rights violation. And the example of the human rights violations is genocide in Myanmar and child labor in Seychelles too. And there's also actually a lot happening too, mainly this time, mostly at some point, genocide in like for example in Asia. In Asia we have Palestine who facing a genocide, or maybe we could also put like Egypt. They do once facing a genocide, and many other countries facing this kind of problem. Now, what solution we can use to preventing this happening? Because we all would know once this happening, we cannot redo it or solving it because it's already happened. So if we cannot solving it, at least we can preventing it from happening. So how can we preventing it from happening? The solution to preventing this is by strengthen international legal frameworks, impose sanction on nations violating human rights, raise global awareness talk through media and activism. Okay, now C is poverty and economic inequality. Now, poverty is always happen around the country, not just around the country, around the countries internationally. Like for example, in Indonesia, we do have a lot of poverty. Like if we go to the city, right, you will see some people who just basically homeless. Now, there's also another example, like extreme poverty in sub-Saharan in Africa, and then income gaps in the US too. So US also facing the poverty too, which is why US has one of the highest homeless and poverty. Now, what the solution we can use to solving this problem, to at least reducing the poverty? Now, the solution we can use to solving this is by implementing fair wages. The solution we can use for the poverty and the economic inequality is by implementing fair wages and job creation. We must creating a job just so people could working, because without job most of them will homeless. And we also must strengthen social safety, needs healthcare and in education, and we also must encourage economic policies that support equal wealth distribution. Okay, now number three is most likely political and governance issues. Mostly to the, we all know, government. Now A is corruption. Now corruption, this usually happen to many countries, not just one country, but many countries, and most of them experience the corruption, and at some point some of them also experience this like daily. And what is the example for the for the crime of the corruption? Well, this mostly happen. We can take on one example like Indonesia. In Indonesia, corruption usually happen at some points, like every single month. This usually happen. Well, not every single month though. Some of them every single day, some of them every single month, some of them every single week. This usually happen. And there's also some political bribery in Latin America, and financial fraud in the governmental contracts. Now, this is one of the biggest problems that most countries face, because by having this will downgrading the economy of the countries. Indonesia experienced this, and even though it is not affecting them a lot, like for now, we still have the economy is still same, but we lost a lot of money because of this. Now, what is the solution to solving this one big crime once and for all? Try to make it at least not happening. Now, the solution for this one is to increasing government transparency and accountability, enforce strict anti-corruption laws, promote independent media and investigative journalism. And we both know that at some point corruption could happen every single time, and it could same happen again by the same person, or maybe a different person, but the same corruption again and again and again. And if this keep happening, mostly we could try to death penalty. In China, whoever corrupting the money of the countries, they usually put them in death penalty, like literally. That's why in China, even though they have high corruption, well, not as much as other countries, but even though they have a huge corruption, they also pretty much very justice. They serve the laws like the law, and even the corruptors is kind of pretty much suffer in that country. Okay, now B, wars and armed conflicts. This usually happen in human history for more than the centuries, and at some point this usually happen because of some pity problems, pity issues, and some disagreement, which then causing a huge war, which caused a lot of people. A lot of people die for nothing, for because of this. Now we can take a lot. There's actually a lot of examples, but we're going to take a few. For example, Russian and Ukrainian war. This happens like for more than 2 years. This two, and there's also a civil war in Syria, which happens like really war that really happens, and probably still happens until now. Now, what is the solution to solving this? To solving this or preventing this war? Well, but the solution that we can use is by strengthening the diplomatic peace efforts, enforce armed trade regulations, provide international mediations and conflict resolution programs. Because we know that this war is just meaning nothing. It's just caused a lot of people to die useless in a useless war, just because of some political problems or political issues between government or maybe a country's leader, between the letter A and letter B having this kind of problem, and then this kind of thing happen. So we should probably must not just try but must do this, because the one who's going to pay the price is not the leader but the people. They die because of this, and this just means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Now, C is refugee and migration crisis. One of the example of the refugee and migration crisis is, for example, Syrian refugees in Europe, or Rohingya crisis in Bangladesh, which then they refugees in Indonesia, in Aceh. Now, what is the solution to at least solving this problem, to reducing the refugees or migration that keeps happening? Because we both know that even though this actually has a good effect, a good side of the refugees too, like saving lives or giving them a home, giving them a work, which they will not be homeless anymore, will not be dying or hungry. But this also caused a lot of problems, especially towards the people in that country. So what is the solution we can use? The solution we can use is improve humanitarian aid programs, strengthen asylum policies and integration programs, address root causes of migration like wars, economics, instability. Now, number 4 is ethical and moral dilemmas. Now, this usually happens to most of us. Every single living being in this planet, this usually happens to us, whether it's humans, animals, or plants, or other things. Now, A is animal cruelty and extinction. Now, we both know that there's some animals who's going to face their extinction, and there's actually a lot of them. A lot of these animals are very rare, so rare that it cannot be found in other countries, but except this one country. And we must save this, because this is the very reason why our countries is very popular too. Like for Indonesia, we have a Komodo. Komodo is not, even though at some point it's rare, it doesn't have a lot of Komodo in it. It doesn't have a lot of Komodo. Now, the example of the animal cruelty and extinction is poaching of elephants and rhinos, or factory farming abuses. Now, rhinos also going to face extinction, because the horn is the very important part of the rhinos, but humans also want it too, so they're also going to face the extinction. Now, what is the solution to preventing this from happening? Because the animal cruelty or the extinction of the animal keeps happening again and again, in every single days, or maybe single years or single months. The solution we can use to preventing this is strengthen wildlife conservation laws, support ethical and sustainable farming practice, promote plant-based diets. So the plant also facing its extinction too, due to the human trying to advancing their own cities, their own country, which is why the plant also kind of involved in this point too. But the most part we're talking about is most likely animal. Now B is bioethical issues. Now this usually happens in many countries. They usually putting like some kind of experiment, putting some experiment, whether it's human or animals. And even though we both know that there's also a good effect of the experimenting, because by that we could get information, but at some point this experiment can be misused for their own greed, or maybe just to torture. And one of the example of it is like a gene editing, or maybe a cloning, like genetic engineering too. And this at some point also happened to us human in this modern days. What is the solution to solving this? The solution to solving this is by establishing global bioethical guidelines, promoting responsible scientific research, ensure public discussion on genetic ethics. So that is the solution to solving this one. Now we get to the one of the most interesting one, the interesting part, which is number 5, which is technological and cyber issues, which mostly happens to our technology every single day that you always use. Now A is the cybersecurity threats. Now this usually happen in our own technology, like for example our phone, where in our phone we both know that we usually putting some private or personal data that only us can access that, and it could also getting threat, like for example it could get hacked, or maybe there's a virus that gets into it. And one of the example is the data breaches, like Facebook for example, cyber attacks on government. Now this also a very dangerous one, because if the government getting a cyber attacks, it could also endangering our also endangering our own technologies too. Our own cyber security is also endangered by this. Now what is the solution to solving this or preventing this kind of problem? The solution we can use is strengthen cybersecurity infrastructure, enforce stricter data protection laws, and education the public on cyber hygiene. We must, if the people do not know on how to use the technology, this could also endangering their own, and at some point some people could misuse this to do some things like access again, like hacking for example, which is also very dangerous to every data for all of us, our own personal data. And now is B, which is misinformation and fake news. Now the fake news or hoax, this usually happen mostly in internet is so wide that even the hoax also get the space to get there. Now one of the most famous fake news or famous misinformation is the COVID-19 conspiracy theories. Now COVID-19, we both know that COVID-19 is one of the most global issues that happened during the 2019, probably until 2021 probably. This is a very big problem to our planet back then, and when that actually happens, some people actually making some theories that is contradict what the COVID-19 is. Like for example, they making a theories about the vaccine, like uh, the vaccine of the COVID-19 could cause a cancer, or maybe the COVID-19 was created because of some Chinese people, because they the one who created to destroy people or killing people, which is basically wrong, not right, and is still spreading until now. Now, what is the solution to solving this? To solving this problem, to stopping the fake news that widespread all over the internet? The solution we can use is by strengthen a fact-checking mechanism, hold social media platforms accountable, and promoting media literacy education. Because by increasing the literacy education, we can know which one is right, which one is wrong. Okay, now let's get into C, artificial intelligence or AI. Now we both know that AI is very part of the internet that we always use right now. Some of the AI like ChatGPT, or maybe Meta AI, or maybe some other like DeepSeek. Now the AI is actually pretty good. They're indeed good because they could help us to uh, giving us the information on what we're about to asking, could feel our own curiosity on like what does this mean, or where does this happen, or what is this, or who is this person who caused this thing to happen again and again. They could give us this information easily, so we don't really need to use book a lot. But AI is also very dangerous. Even Elon Musk actually state that AI is far more dangerous than a nuke. Now, some of the example of AI that is being dangerous or could also cause some global issue is job displacement due to the automation and biased AI decision making. Now, job displacement will happen. It will happen in the next few years after probably after 2030. This will happen. Most jobs that is basically easy to us, like taxi driving, or maybe a chef cooking, or maybe a teacher teaching the student, this could happen. The AI could replace it, and probably the only thing that the only job that could possibly still survive until when this happens is probably a programmer, because uh, the only reason why AI can still exist or still work is because of programmer. So programmer will be probably the only job that can probably still survive, because of course they don't who control the AI. And there's also some biased AI decision making. Some programmers probably putting some biased information that at some point uh, is true, but at some point it's false or contradicting. Now, what solution you can use to solving this problem, to at least preventing this from happening? Because we all will know that once this job displacement happen, well, no one can feed their children anymore. No one can get their money from getting work. So they have no choice but to adapt. Now, what is the solution to preventing this, or at least solve this problem? The solution to solving this problem is by develop ethical AI policies and regulation, promoting workforce reskilling and upskilling, and implementing AI transparency and accountability measures. So we can watching AI on what they're doing, how are they doing with the people who are asking to them. Okay, now number 6 is Energy and resource challenges. This happened in a global scale, happened to every country, especially advanced country like America. A. Dependence on fossil fuels. One of the example of the dependence on fossil fuels is uh, oil dependency in the Middle East. Like for example, Saudi Arabia, they have one of the biggest oil. In fact, America usually not usually at some point they mostly asking oil from them, and we will know that it's going to get extinct anyways. And one of the other example is coal reliance in China. Now, what is the solution to preventing this from happening, or at least solve this problem, just so there probably won't be any political problems, or maybe there won't be any people who have to suffer, because you will know that this oil is one of the most main point, or the very reason why uh, countries can still exist. The reason why Saudi Arabia can still exist, even though we both know that America could have just uh, destroyed it, is because of this. So America basically uh, asking for oils, as we all know, they're always asking for oils, and Saudi Arabia has one of the big oil, and because of Saudi Arabia having one of the big oil, America won't even dare to attack. They won't even dare to attack. Now, the solution to preventing this or solving this is by promote renewable energy sources, implementing carbon taxes, and encourage energy efficient technologies. Now, B is overpopulation. Overpopulation, or too much people in the city, or maybe in the country. Now, one of the main example of the overpopulation is India, where they're getting a high birth rate in India, and even at some points in some countries like Europe, for example, they face like very population crisis. Or maybe Japan, they also face this problem too. But India, his birth rate is very high, that it's overpopulated the country. So it also happens many things. The reason why this could happen is, well, many things happen. Some of them crime, some of them uh, probably because of marriages and other things. Now, what is the solution to solving this problem? To solve the overpopulation problems, the solution to solving this problem is by promote family planning and reproductive health education, develop a sustainable urban infrastructure, and improve access to contraception. Now, we will know that the overpopulation also has a good side effect, because by having this overpopulation, we could also widespread the people of this country all over the world. Like for example, China is also one of the second biggest or largest population other than India. They spread, all over the globe. In Indonesia, we have a lot of Chinese people too. So the solution for this is that. Now, the final one is 7, which is public safety and health threats. Now let's see. A, pandemics and disease outbreaks. Now this happened a lot. Some pandemics did happen before even the COVID-19, but we're gonna use the COVID-19 as the main example, because we all know that not all of people knowing the pandemics that happened long before the COVID-19. Now the COVID-19 actually was one of the most biggest problem in the human history. It is one of the greatest global problem that we face. In fact, it also caused a huge lockdown, probably 2000, like around 3 or 4 years or 3 years lockdown. This caused a lot of problem, and the solution to solving this disease, if there's any other disease that could possibly happen or possibly widespread across the globe, is improve global disease surveillance systems, and then strengthen healthcare infrastructure, and then also encourage vaccine development and distribution. Okay, now let's move into B, food security and hunger. Now this actually happen in many countries too. Like for example, in Africa, this also happens in many countries in Africa too. They face a lot of this. Of course, some countries, advanced country in Africa like South Africa, which is one of the most advanced country, probably some of them did face this problem, but most African countries have hunger. And then other example other than Africa is in Yemen, where they having a huge famine in Yemen. Now, what is the solution to solving this problem? The solution to solving this problem is by developing sustainable agricultural practices, reduce food waste, and improve distributions networks. Also support global food aid organization. So the mostly we have to reducing the food waste, and it happens in many countries. And in America it does happen, and in Indonesia it actually did happen. We kind of lost a lot of money because of this food waste, and yeah, it just ended up to be nothing. Now this third one, or the final one of the number 7, is drugs abuse and addiction. Now the drug abuse and addiction, this happens in many countries, but one of the most countries that happen or having this kind of problem is US. They're having this opioid crisis in the US, and also illegal drug trade in Latin America, like for example Brazil. Those, they also have a lot of those things that happens. Now, what is the solution we can use to solving this, to solving the drug dealers, drug abusers, or having some drug addiction? What solution we can use to solving this? How can we solve it? The solution is by strengthen addiction treatment programs, implement strict drug regulation and rehabilitation policies, educate the public on drug-related risk. Or one of the main point to stopping drug is, well, we could make a law where drugs are not allowed into this country. By that, the drug won't even come. Now, that's all I want to presenting. Thank you everybody to listening, and goodbye.